What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and got some pretty big news actually. The Dolphins have made a trade. So we'll get into that. There's a couple things though that I do want to talk about in this video. Yeah, some of this stuff actually came from last night, but it was like later last night, so I didn't make a video, and I just kind of held it, hoping that, you know, maybe one or two other stories would come by, and they did. So I'm gonna wrap it all into one. The first thing I want to talk about, just go through this really quick, is that it appears as if Broncos GM John Elway has contracted the coronavirus. And so look, also their CEO Joe Ellis has tested positive for the coronavirus. The Denver Broncos top brass is dealing with positive COVID-19 tests. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reported that GM John Elway and CEO Joe Ellis tested positive for the novel coronavirus per sources informed of the situation. The Broncos are confident the transmissions originated from outside the building. Rappaport added as the trade deadline approaches. I mean, really, it doesn't matter because then they brought it into the building. But, also, it's not a surprise because they do go into their facilities and they go into the stadiums for games, which I think they have fans there. I can't remember if they have fans at their home stadium or not. Anyway, but point is, they are actually like at games and stuff, whereas like the owner, I don't know, he might be too. I mean, there have been actually quite a few owners I've seen at these games. But look, I've said before that they're not risking themselves, right? Except for financially, and that's all they care about. And should these guys contract it, they have the best medical attention that, money can buy. So they're probably a little less worried about it. But, yeah, I mean, being present, though, increases their chances. So, I mean, I guess you can give them credit for taking, a chance with their own lives if they're going to be fucking forcing these guys to play and stuff, I guess, whatever. But, this just goes to show you, though, that nobody's really untouchable. So, and of course, it just adds more, disaster to the overall season, and so on. So, actually, staying on kind of that same note, let's switch to the next thing that I want to talk about. This is from CBS Sports, but multiple, outlets reported on this. NFL may consider a 16-team playoff if regular season games are lost due to COVID-19 per report. So they already expanded the fucking format to 14 teams. 16 teams, I don't know if people know this, that would be half of the league. There are 32 teams in the league. 16 is half. I mean, it would guarantee certainly. Now, theoretically, it would only be for this year and, whatever. But that would guarantee that teams that definitely don't deserve to be in the playoffs are going to be in the playoffs, right? With the 12 team format, every once in a while, you would get teams that, have a losing record or whatever, sneak into the playoffs. Now, it was usually like wild card. It's super rare that a losing record would win their division, but that has even happened once or twice, right? Then you expand it to 14, increases that. Expanding it to 16 then further increases it. But it just goes to show you, they are fucking desperate. They are desperate to just make sure that the season goes on at all costs. Well, let's get through this. A loss of NFL regular season games could result in an expanded playoff field. While no NFL games have yet to be canceled due to the coronavirus pandemic, the NFL Competition Committee expects to present a resolution to the league's 32 owners based on having a 16-team playoff if games are lost due to COVID-19, according to ESPN's Chris Mortensen. Real quick, let's also note, though, why are they even coming up with these contingency plans to begin with? The reason is because, and my guess is, especially after what happened this past week with, a couple players playing the game having COVID-19 and potentially having outbreaks on 4 teams, now they actually think that there's a substantial possibility that they're going to actually full on have to cancel games because of this shit, right? So they wouldn't be doing it if they didn't think that there was some chance. right? So that's interesting to note as well. The NFL's competition committee, I guess, met virtually. They just didn't put the word in the sentence. Met virtually on Monday to discuss the resolution, according to Mortensen, who also noted that future loss of bye weeks could increase the odds of an extended playoff field. Several teams, including the undefeated Steelers, have already seen their bye weeks altered due to the pandemic. Yeah, and we already talked about that. You know, they're running out of ways to reschedule games. They're running out of bye weeks to take away and stuff like that. So, and it's not going away. It's not going away. I mean, the past week we've been averaging, 80, 90 thousand new cases a day, right? Blah, blah, blah. So it's a major disaster. Anyway, by virtue of the league's new collective bargaining agreement, the NFL was already set to go from 12 to a 14-team playoff schedule this winter. Under the 14-team field, only the number one seed in each conference would receive a playoff bye, while the other 6 teams in each conference would play on Wild Card Weekend. If the playoff field is expanded to 16 teams, the top 2 seeds in each conference would likely receive byes. As it currently stands, the 7-0 Steelers would own the AFC's number 1 seed, while the 6-1 Seahawks would own the top seed in the NFC. If the league expands to a 16-team playoff, it would mark the first time since 1982 that at least half of the NFL's teams participated in the postseason. Following a strike-shortened season in 82, the league decided to include 16 of the NFL's 28 teams in the postseason, dubbing it the Super Bowl tournament. 8 teams from each conference participated in the playoffs that winter, with Washington winning the 4-game tournament after defeating the Dolphins in Super Bowl 17. John Riggins, named Super Bowl MVP after rushing for 166 yards and a touchdown, actually rushed for more yards during the 82 playoffs than he did during the 9-game regular season. Great. While there probably is not a fan base that is openly rooting for less regular season games, an extended playoff field would certainly help the Raiders, Dolphins, Bears, and 49ers, 4 teams that would just miss the playoffs under the league's current format. And I know, bruh, people are going to hate me for this, but I don't want them to get in because they expand the fucking playoffs to 16 teams. I want them to get in off their own fucking merits. So I don't care about that at all. Anyway, but the whole point of that really is, to point out that it's still a giant fucking mess, and they are clearly desperate in trying to scramble and figure out how they're going to manage to survive or allow the season to survive when it is currently on fucking life support. So, yeah. Anyway, so real quick though, because the Dolphins made some headlines today, just a little while ago, because the trade deadline is coming up, and they've been in the news potentially for Xavier Howard, maybe Jordan Howard, the 2 Howards, right? Well, they actually did make a move today. It does not involve either of those players. Instead, the Dolphins trade Isaiah Ford to the Patriots. I don't like this. Let's go through the report, though, and then I'll give my opinion. The Patriots needed a receiver. The Dolphins needed to open up for opportunities for other receivers in the slot. I don't know why they needed that. Why would they need that? First of all, the offense actually hasn't even been playing all that great. Isaiah Ford is one of the top receivers on this team, has been certainly a bright spot, especially for where he was picked, and it weakens your team when you don't need to do that. Especially for what? They get a 2022 7th round pick. I mean, to me, none of this makes any fucking sense. Especially because you want Tua to succeed, right? He didn't play very well in this past game. The offense did not play very well. They kind of lucked out because, they lucked out because the offense didn't have to, right? The offense there was not really any pressure put on them. They were hardly even on the field. And when they were, all their drives ended in punts or a sack fumble. Or actually, they had 2 fumbles. There was the Gaskin fumble too, right? So 2 fumbles and then 9 punts. They had 145 yards. They had 55 rushing yards and like 90 passing yards. They had 3 yards per play. They were 25% on 3rd down. They lost the fucking time of possession battle. They should have lost that game in so many different ways. And if a couple things would have, turned out differently, then they would have lost that game, right? But so you want him to play well. I would not have gotten rid of Isaiah Ford. I think that is a foolish move to make and, hurts your team. especially for like, but whatever. Okay. I get it. So, you know, you guys are doing what you got to do. I guess they feel like they got enough guys, whatever, sure. So the teams have completed a rare intra-division trade. Adam Schefter of ESPN reports the Dolphins are sending receiver Isaiah Ford. Yeah, but we already know that they have a really good fucking relationship. Why? Because, like, you know, a handful of players came from there, and a bunch of our coaches, including our head coach, came from there. So obviously they have a really good fucking... Now, you know, the Patriots, obviously... we've been seeing them decline for the past few years, slowly, but now that Tom Brady's gone, and then because of the fact that their defense was so fundamentally changed by losing so many of their key guys, one, to opt-outs, and then also because of, you know, guys leaving via free agency, it was more opt-outs, right? There's Patrick Chung, Hightower, fucking a bunch of guys, and then of course, you know, they've had like Stephon Gilmore and Cam Newton go on the COVID list, right? And, you know, Tom Brady's gone. So obviously they've been declining. They're not going to be what they used to be. Their dynasty's over, you know. I mean, most, I don't know who, but I think it's been, the writing's been on the wall for a few years, one way or another. And then Tom Brady leaving, etc., just kind of put the nail in the coffin, right? But like, so whatever, who cares? Like, I don't care that the trade partner, I don't care who they traded with. It's the trade that they made. Like, I don't think it's a good idea. But hey, prove me wrong, right? Prove me wrong. I'm all about it. Let's see. They're sending him to the Patriots. Patriots are sending a 7th round choice in the 2022 draft to the Dolphins. In 7 games this season, Ford played 225 snaps, which is 51% of the team's offensive plays. He has 18 catches for 184 yards. The Dolphins selected Ford in the 7th round in 2017. The trade gives more playing time to Malcolm Perry, Lynn Bowden Jr., and Antonio Callaway, whose suspension ends this week. So, you know, they had Antonio Callaway on the practice squad, and he did... I didn't even realize he was suspended for anything. Maybe there's just so much going on that I forgot. I don't know, but... Anyway, his suspension was lifted, and so maybe they're going to bring him in and fucking have him play, or maybe they feel confident in Lynn Bowden or Malcolm Perry or whatever. The only places I've really seen them used is like in the backfield in like wildcat types of offenses. So, and it hasn't been successful like at all. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. You know, this game against the Arizona Cardinals is going to be a tough matchup. It's another 5-2 team going into it. So, you know, they're not going to have the bad team excuse. They did lose Kenyon Drake for at least a little bit. I don't know what their current injury situation is like. We'll have to see that and see if that's going to be, you know, much of a factor. But, you know, it is a good team, but they do have to go on the road, as opposed to, you know, the Rams had to travel all the way across the country to visit the Dolphins. Also, too, like, man... Anyway, I was going to mention the sideline difference in temperature, you know, whatever. And it's, you know, when you look at how, like, off-target Goff was pretty much that whole game, I mean, there's a reasonable argument to say that, you know, the short week, the long travel, jet lag, plus having to bake in fucking 100-plus heat, you know, I mean, that could have had something to do with it, right? So, how big of a factor? I don't know. It's kind of impossible really to say, but, you know, whatever. So now the Dolphins are going to have to travel, you know, to Arizona. They're going to be the away team. We'll see how it plays. I mean, you know, unfortunately, I don't imagine that they're going to be able to rely on, you know, a special team score and defensive scores in this next game. So, look, I mean, because that's reasonable, because most games don't have that, right? And especially for one team, having back-to-back games with that is hard. So if you take out, you know, the special team score, the Dolphins scored 21 points. If you take out the defensive score, that's 14 points, right? So if you can't rely on those, and you need to rely on just the skill of your team, right? Now, don't get me wrong, the defensive score came from the skill of the players, and so on and so forth too, right? So don't get me wrong. I mean, that fumble, again, I don't think, you know, if that wide receiver just even would have chipped Dogba, I don't think we would have had that. So there's that as well, that perspective. So, You can look at it from one, you can't always rely on defensive scores, but also that score probably shouldn't have happened if the receiver just at least would have gotten a chip on the free runner that was coming at the quarterback, because that would have at least bought Goff enough time to release the ball. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it would have ended up as an interception return for a touchdown, but probably not likely, right? So if you take that off the board, the Dolphins scored 14 points. And then, I mean, you know, even the other two, when you look at the offensive drives, the offense did score those touchdowns, but they didn't have to try very hard for it, right? So, you know, it was a 1-yard touchdown run by Gaskin after Van Noy set him up at the 1-yard line. And then whatever. So look, I mean, I'm just pointing out the full picture, right? And so they need to do a lot better if they're going to have consistency and if they want to be able to get into the playoffs, not just this year, but next year, right? Because theoretically, I mean, who knows? COVID's probably still going to be a disaster. This country's still going to be a disaster. So next year could be extremely fucked up as well. But theoretically, if it goes back to normal, and there's not the ungodly record-setting number of injuries that we're having, if there's not a fucking pandemic that we're playing through, etc., if teams are at full fucking strength, blah, 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 and things go normally, the Dolphins are going to have a lot harder of a time than they did, you know, in some of these games that they played, right? So, including this last one. So, you know, the performance of the offense, it's just inarguable. You cannot argue that the level to which the offense performed against the Rams, despite their win and despite scoring 2 touchdowns, was anywhere near adequate to hold up against, you know, the best teams, or not even just the best teams, just even average teams in a normal season, you know, that isn't decimated by injuries and, you know, marred by a pandemic, right? Who thinks that they're going to win even half their games with 145 yards and, you know, 55 rushing yards, blah, 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 blah? They're not, I mean, they got to do way better. Will they? We have to wait and see. I hope so. Again, this next game is going to be still a good test overall. And they do have some favorable, you know, relatively favorable matchups actually going forward with some of the rest of their schedule, considering how all these different factors have affected all of these different teams, right? You know, because we play the Bengals, the Chargers, we play the Jets again, right? So we got a ton of, you know, several games, the Patriots again. And that's actually looking like it could be a winnable game, right? So, like, there's a lot out there that could go right for the Dolphins this year, provided they stay healthy. Now, that's obviously the big other thing, is are they going to be able to stay healthy? Because at this point, that's really been one of their biggest advantages. That is literally one of their biggest advantages this season, is that they've been healthy. So real quick, I'm actually getting, I'm trying to bring it up right now, but I just got an alert that the Dolphins did another trade, and the headline I saw said that they traded for a Chiefs running back, which is interesting. So, sources: the Dolphins are trading for Chiefs running back DeAndre Washington in exchange for draft pick compensation. Like, why though? Why? What do you mean? Why, dude? Like, now that just makes the previous trade even more confounding. So you weaken like, you need Isaiah Ford way more than you need whoever this dude is, DeAndre Washington. I don't even know who he is. He's probably like a fucking, I mean, he's definitely not one of the Chiefs' top running backs. That's for damn sure, right? So, like, why? I mean, you have so many running backs. So many. Why? You have Myles Gaskin, who's obviously your lead guy. You have Jordan Howard, Matt Breida, technically Lynn Bowden Jr. and Malcolm Perry could be listed in that. They've been in, like, tons of Wildcat backfield type shit. Well, not tons, but, you know, that's pretty much all they've done. Patrick Laird. Why? What? So, I mean, I don't... Like Adam Beasley says, Washington, a former 5th-round pick, was buried on the Chiefs' depth chart this year, but should get carries on a Dolphins team that needs help at running back. Look, I agree that our running game is not all that great, but it's not just because of the fucking running backs, right? And Myles Gaskin's doing just fine. Breida's done some alright things, and Jordan Howard hasn't overall done a lot, but he's shown you that at least he could be a goal line short yardage back for you. And then you got like 10 other dudes on the roster. Where the fuck do you need? Why? I mean, okay, look. And on top of that, their evaluation, in my opinion, overall has not been very good. Some of these guys are surprising a little bit under the circumstances that they're playing in. But overall, man, I mean, I don't know. Let's see how it plays out. That's breaking news. It literally just happened. Oh, so, and the Chiefs get a 2021 6th-round pick. So, the pick we got from the Patriots, the 7th-round pick we get for Isaiah Ford, is 2 years away. Super fucking useless. And then we give away a 6th-round pick from next year for a running back that is probably going to be super useless. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he comes in and makes a huge impact, but I doubt it. And he's like, you know, Adam Beasley's like, oh, well, he was buried on the Chiefs depth chart. Where the fuck do you think this dude's going to be on our depth chart? What do you mean? Wait, like, what the fuck are you talking about? I mean, at least initially, right? Who knows? Maybe he rises fast, right? Maybe he fucking jumps a bunch of people and becomes, you know, the 2nd or 3rd guy. But that's not going to happen this week. What do you mean? He has to fucking get settled in. He's in a new place. He's got to get into the playbook, learn the terminology, start getting chemistry with the fucking... He's not going to take first team reps. Like, what the fuck? Like, where the fuck do you think this guy's going to go? He's going to be buried on our depth chart and not do a goddamn fucking thing. I mean, like, likely. To be fair, I don't know. But, okay, dude. Well, we'll see how it fucking plays out. So, that's all I got for now. Unless they, you know, make more moves or whatever. So that's what they've done. We'll see what happens. Who knows? Maybe they trade Jordan Howard now, or maybe they just flat out cut him. If they did that, though, I mean, it would just add to the level of stupidity and lack of sense that these moves would make. I mean, if they make room for this guy by cutting Jordan Howard because he's been a disappointment, I mean, again, that adds to the list of players you suck at evaluating, but also it would just be a complete waste because they traded for him. So let's see. Apparently, though, there's a quick update to this. Apparently, the Dolphins exchange picks as well. So the Dolphins get a 2021 7th rounder and DeAndre Washington for a 2021 6th rounder. I mean, we'll see, bro. We'll see. Yeah. I don't know. We'll fucking see. We'll see what happens. All right, I'm gonna get out of here. Hope y'all, if y'all appreciate my perspective, Jesus Christ, I hope you appreciate my Jesus Christ. I hope you appreciate my perspective. There we go. If I can get the English language right. I hope you appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. Of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.